had a friendship. We talked often, never became romantic. We did have intimate moments, but it's not what I would consider romantic. It was strictly physical.
All right, welcome back. Attorney Lisa Bloom from Avo.com is my co-host this week. A sex scandal in a small town. Jury selection underway in the trial of the business partner of an alleged business partner.
Quote unquote.
Yes, that was just her partner in the clip you saw. He is accused of participating in the running of a sex ring out of a local exercise studio. In fact, it was a certain kind of, what was it, the Zumba. It was Zumba.
Yes,
it's a Zumba prostitute.
It was a dance studio, as we
Dance, nice, lovely.
He had intimate relations with her, he
I
says.
think we actually have pictures of her dancing, in fact, with a pole, strangely enough. We're going to get to those in a minute, but first I want to introduce my guest. Attorney Ariva Martin is with us, also Siggy Flicker, relationship expert, and Kenneth P. Altschuler, morning drive radio host. He's also a divorce attorney, and he lives in the town of Kennebunk, Maine, where this all went down. Kenneth, tell us about the impact this scandal is now having on your town as the trials are coming on.
I think the best words I could describe it, frankly, Dr. Drew, is battle fatigue. This has been going on for months. As you may recall, the Kennebunk Police Department has released the name of alleged Johns on about every 2-week basis, but only 40% of the names have been released. So the town has been inundated with investigators and media and these questions about when will the shoe drop? When will we find out the other names, the other Johns? And when will this case go to trial? So finally, the day has arrived. Mark Strong is the first of the 2 major defendants to go to trial. Jury selection was very slow today, may end by noon tomorrow. Hopefully opening arguments will begin tomorrow afternoon.
Do you think it's a good idea, Dr. Drew, to release the names of the alleged Johns? After all, for many years, the prostitutes have had their pictures up, their names up. I mean, is fair enough? What's
funny
good
you
for the goose,
would
good
ask,
for the gander?
Lisa, as I close my body language here, because the last time I had this conversation, Ariva Martin worked me over pretty good about this very issue, and she was saying, I believe, what was it? If you play in the mud, you come up muddy, or what was your saying?
Well, if you lay down with dogs, you get up with fleas.
Okay, right there, that's what it was.
The answer to Lisa is absolutely. The names of the Johns should be released because, as we discussed before, the name of the alleged prostitute has been released. Her family's been impacted. We found out she has a daughter. Her daughter's been impacted. So why are we trying to protect the men? I just say, be fair. Have parity with respect to everyone involved in this trial.
It takes 2 to tango, right?
Well,
2 people are committing a crime
were
here,
consenting
right?
adults. Consenting adults.
But let me go out to Kenneth. Aren't we sort of claiming the behavior? We're calling them guilty without there being evidence of guilt?
Let's say alleged.
No, we're not, Dr. Drew. We're not calling them guilty at all. They have been arrested and charged with a crime, and in our criminal justice system, once you've been arrested and charged with a crime, your name can be made public. Just like that woman whose picture has been all over the news, there's no difference in the men involved in this case. And I'm glad, I am actually glad to see the names of those men being released and this story getting the attention that it's getting, because I think it has a different meaning, and it's really showing in our society how, we're so hard on women involved in prostitution, but we don't take the same attitude and don't have the same position when it comes to the men. It wouldn't be prostitutes without men paying for sex.
I am persuaded. No, I am persuaded.
We got you.
No, you do. You have me, but it's uncomfortable that so many families are affected and people.
But that's true. Anytime somebody's accused of a crime, and we talk
you're
about
right. Kenneth, do you agree, though, in the town, is this sort of a prevailing opinion?
Actually, yes, we agree with Attorney Martin. These people have been summoned to court. They've been accused of committing a crime. That warrants the release of their names. And it's no different if it was a shoplifting case or an OUI. The names get released when summoned. And so I think it's proper. It's the procedure we have in Maine. It's illegal in Maine. Whether it should be or not, it is. And so long as it's illegal, if you're accused of a crime and Johns have committed a crime, allegedly, their name should be released.
I think we have a call from Carol in Massachusetts. You're not too far away there. Carol, you had something to say?
Yes, I do, Dr. Drew. We all know that these men would still be at it if they hadn't gotten caught.
Ooh.
So now they're all upset about their names out there.
And yes.
Well, too
Yes,
bad.
I agree with her.
They should have thought about
Dr.
that.
Drew?
Siggy, you're trying to ring in here. Please go right ahead.
Yes, Dr. Drew, hi, yes. I'd like to say something.
Please.
My quote is, and I agree with Miss Martin, if it smells fishy, it usually is fishy. I mean, these men, and let's not say that they went to this dance studio. Dr. Drew, they went across the street, above a flower shop and above a hair salon, in the back door. These men knew exactly what they were doing, but why are we thinking about these men? We should be thinking about the children and the wives. And my advice to any men's names that haven't been released yet, to please man up and fess up to your family. If there was a hurricane coming to your town, you would get water bottles, you would get food, or you would get in your car and protect your family. This is a time for you men now to really act like men and fess up if your names are about to be released.
I love it. And will this deter other men from going to prostitutes if they know their name and their picture might be on Dr. Drew tomorrow?
No, and I'm not averse to this, but there is a Zumba prostitution hurricane coming. I've got to take a break. Next up, is a fair trial even possible in this small town where everyone seems to know everyone? And later on...
She set these guys up, she purposely shot secret film of them, put them out on the internet, and she exposed them to the rest of the world. Really, she should be the one that's exposed. The guys should be very private in this. They shouldn't have their names out there.
Now, these were women that were legal prostitutes in Nevada that were sort of giving their opinion about this whole story. Welcome back. My co-host this week, Lisa Bloom, Avo.com. As I said, those prostitutes were from the Bunny Ranch, commenting on the sex scandal in Maine. So, Ariva, I want to get back to the issue of whether or not a jury can be seated on this case. Will the jury be influenced by the prevailing winds in the community? Can people find an unbiased population where it's so small and everyone is exposed to this?
That's a great question, Dr. Drew. And there have been lots of questions that have been raised by the defense attorney with respect to whether the publicity and the national and the local publicity has tainted the jury pool and whether they can find unbiased jurors that can sit with respect to the trial that's coming up. The motion was made to move the trial, but the judge said no. The trial is going to take place in the town where the acts allegedly occurred. We also saw this defense attorney try to get himself removed from the case. He says that this defendant doesn't have the money to go forward to fund the litigation, to fund the cost of defense for the case. And the judge also said, no, you're going to stay on this trial. So it's going to be some really interesting things happening because we have a lawyer who's saying he's not being paid, but he's being forced to stay on and defend the alleged co-conspirator with the Zumba instructor. And we have this same lawyer saying that he can't find unbiased jurors. So lots of interesting legal developments.
Interesting. I actually have Gary M. Perlman now. He is the attorney for 10 of the alleged Johns. He also represents a high school hockey coach who had resigned in the wake of this scandal. Gary, what do you think of how this is all being handled and this whole conversation we've been having so far, in fact?
Well, Dr. Drew, thank you for having me on. With all due respect to Ariva and Ken, I don't believe that the victims' identities should have been revealed. And I use those words, victims, because that is exactly what the prosecutor called them in her invasion of privacy counts against Mark Strong, whose case starts tomorrow.
Wait, how are alleged Johns victims? That's a new one to me.
Well, it's great that you asked that. And the reason why is because Mr. Strong allegedly was filming these people, and they were charged with counts of invasion of privacy. And according to Maine statute 17 AMRSA 1176, as other victims of crimes, they're supposed to be shielded by the court. And in fact, 3 years ago, this same court up here, Justice Mills presided over the case of sexual registration cases where there were convicted gross sexual crimes that had been committed, and these people were shielded by the court because there were laws that...
So what you're saying, if I could just jump in to explain this in English a little bit, you're saying that they were surreptitiously recorded, that these guys didn't know that they were being recorded, and that's what makes them a victim?
Absolutely.
Lisa was saying if they... Reva, hold on a second. Lisa was saying...
I didn't make that up. That's what the state...
No, we got it.
But Lisa, you were saying if they knew they were being recorded, they would have been protected by the First Amendment.
Right. What's so fascinating to me, so if these guys knew they were going to a prostitute, but they didn't know know that they were being recorded? Does that make them a victim? That's one question. Right. And of course, if somebody intentionally makes a sex tape or pornography,
then you're making prostitution. Then you're making pornography.
You're making pornography. It's protected by the First Amendment,
so
even
if
though
money exchanges,
somebody's paying for sex and being paid to have sex.
Wait,
right?
let's state this again so people at home can understand it. So if somebody goes to a prostitute and they film it, it's now protected.
Well, if you have sexual activity for the purpose of making a film,
and money happens to exchange hands.
Money changes hands. That's protected by the First Amendment.
Wow.
We have a huge pornography industry, right?
Wow.
So that's all protected by the First Amendment.
Real quick, I've got less than a minute.
The question I have for Gary is the fact that they might be a victim doesn't excuse them from being also a perpetrator. They also paid for sex. So they can be both victimized by the alleged invasion of privacy, but they also committed crimes.
Ariva, I'm going to let Gary finish this. Go ahead, Gary. Go ahead, please finish. We couldn't hear you.
They did not pay for sex. And in fact, Dawn Hill, whose first case that I'll be doing in March, you'll see, went for massages. And if $150 for a massage in Kennebunk is not out of line, and that's exactly what he did. And he never paid anything more than.
Was he sneaking in the back door and up a secret staircase for a massage?
Exactly.
You guys, I got a break here. It's very interesting material. These cases are going to play out. We'll see where it goes. Mr. Prolan, thank you for joining us. Families being torn apart. This is by this case. This is really a serious issue. We're going to take your calls on the case. And welcome back. We are discussing the prostitution scandal that has rocked a small town in Maine. I want to get straight off to callers who I know have a lot to say about this. I've got Trish, who she herself is in Maine, right where the scandal is unfolding. Right, Trish?
Right. Hi, Dr. Drew. This is Trish from Maine. And I just wanted to tell you that I love your show.
Thank you.
Most of us in this town are wondering why only half the names have been released, less than half the names. And if you commit another crime like an OUI, your name's put in the paper and released on the news. And it seems very unfair. And some of us are speculating, is this because they're being protected by, say, the law or government?
Trish, this issue came up last time we covered this case, and I heard it was, Ariva, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was sort of an administrative issue as much as anything. It was coming, it was going to, would you remember this?
I think the guest on the show today, Dr. Drew, also said that the judge is releasing names. Like every 2 weeks, he's, releasing another set of names. And from what we heard earlier, it had to do with
he's still with us.
Ariva,
or was that Kenneth? Kenneth, try that again. I'm sorry, we couldn't hear you.
Yeah, I can answer that question. First of all, the Kennebunk Police Department has been releasing names every 2 weeks. What has evidently happened is many of these alleged Johns have gotten attorneys, and the attorneys have slowed down the process by asking for discovery and pushing off the prosecuting, issuing summons against them. So the delay has been more, frankly, because they've lawyered up, and that's probably why most of them have been delayed. But they're still coming out. There's still about 90 more to be released, and the prosecutor says that everybody will be charged eventually.
90 more? Was everybody in this entire town going to the same brothel?
They're not all from Kennebunk. Some are from other places.
You know, it's also important, Dr. Drew, to note that 18 of these Johns have already pled to the charges that have been, brought against them. So this isn't just being made up out of whole cloth.
Yeah.
So to the attorney's point about these guys being victims, the victims wouldn't go in and take a plea. 18 of them wouldn't do that unless there was some acts committed for which they might have been convicted.
We actually have some footage of the woman who is at the center of the storm. Her name is Alexis Wright. Now, this is adult content in this video coming up, so caveat beware. She was an exercise instructor, as we said, but accused of being a madam. Siggy, did you want to ring here during this video?
Well, I just wanted to say, not only do they have so much evidence and videotape, they also have over 150 screenshots that were seized from computers. So, and I love the thing that these men are claiming that they're victims. Meanwhile, it was not like a spa that you walked in and the receptionist said, "Hi, John Doe. Thank you for coming for your massage. Your therapist will be with you in 15 minutes.
Instead, they got this kind of reception that we're looking at now. That should have been a tip-off.
Correct.
Right?
Oh, this whole thing is so disturbing. It really is.
Maybe there's a different definition of massage in that city than what we're accustomed to.
And I just realized Kenneth, you got to back me up here. I'm surrounded by women who are very angry at these men, and I don't blame them. And it's a very uncomfortable thing to think.
But Dr. Drew,
Siggy.
But Dr. Drew, it's not just angry. It's like fess up. Do we need another Lance Armstrong now? And you're going to dupe me and dope me for another 10 years? Fess up. You're caught.
We've
got pictures. We've got videotapes. It's like. Exactly. It's like there's children involved here. You want somebody tapping your child next week and say, hey, your dad's name is the next one on the list.
That's what's so distressing to me. I'm distressed about my male compatriots' behavior, that they've done things that have destroyed families, that have torn a town apart.
If you're going to take on your entire gender's wrongs, Dr. Drew, that's quite a lot, right?
We go back to
all that on.
I'm not taking it all on. You're right. I'm very codependent. I'm not that codependent.
But we do need to understand why men go to prostitutes, right? Successful family guys, 90 or 100 of them in the small town. I mean, that's a big percentage of the town.
I'd love to talk to somebody about that very issue.
Why do they do it?
Why do they do it? Kenneth, help me on this here. I just told I was uncomfortable with this story. Lisa goes right to the most uncomfortable question. Help me out, Ken.
Well, remember, first of all, they're not all from Kennebunk. There's some from other states.
That explains it.
Makes a big difference.
One or two.
They all have their reasons for it, but you know what? I don't think they were all taking Zumba lessons. I can safely say that.
It's illegal. It's immoral. It destroys families. You know what it is? You know what it is, Lisa? Is people today don't appreciate the consequences of their behaviors on their primary relationships. And when you diminish Siggy is saying yes for me on this. When you do something away from your primary intimacy, people are harmed.
It's a thrill, right? That's why guys. That's what guys have told me is why they cheat, why they go to prostitutes.
Do that. Some guys do that.
But also importantly, Dr. Drew, they've engaged in the behavior. Now they want the court system to protect them from the very acts that they, on their own volition engaged in.
No, I understand.
But I think you put your finger on it, that you don't think there's going to be any consequences for your acts.
Listen, that's right. But we have way too much laxity in our feelings about relationships and what they need. You get the goofy stuff out of your system when you're a kid. Once you're married and committed, when you cheat with a prostitute or anybody, you are attacking the people you supposedly love, your wife, your children. You are harming them.
Some guys say, well, a prostitute is safer because she's not going to latch on and fall in love with you.
I direct them to this case. Thank you to everybody. Thank you to Kenneth Altschulter. I choke on your name every time, Ken. I'm sorry. Ariva Martin, Siggy Flicker, and Gary M. Perlman. Next up, she is